In a world addicted to noise, the quietest person often has the most power. There's something magnetic about someone who doesn't scramble to speak, explain, or react. They become unpredictable, untouchable, unapologetically sovereign. Stillness isn't passivity, it's presence. It's a refusal to be emotionally hijacked by every situation or every person who demands access to your attention. The quiet mind is not the empty mind. It is the disciplined mind. It notices everything, responds rarely, and speaks only when the words serve purpose, not ego. In stillness, you become a force, not because you dominate, but because you no longer compete. You observe, you choose, you direct your energy with wisdom, not impulse. And that's where true influence begins. Silence is a source of great strength. Laozi. Not every withdrawal needs an explanation. Sometimes the act of stepping back speaks louder than any carefully composed message. Your absence becomes a mirror. It shows others how they treated your presence. And for many, that realization is more uncomfortable than any confrontation you could have offered. Silence, when intentional, is a thunderclap. It says, I no longer participate in dynamics that starve me. Every time you break your own silence to accommodate someone else's discomfort, you dilute your message. You return to a cycle that only ends when you choose to end it. Silence is not about creating distance. It's about creating clarity. Those who truly value you won't require you to shout to be heard. They'll hear your silence, and they'll respond with respect, not resentment. Don't waste words on people who deserve your silence. To live with integrity, you must be willing to be misunderstood. Not everyone will interpret your detachment kindly. Not everyone will applaud your silence. In fact, silence often triggers the fears and projections of others. It forces them to confront what your words might have softened. Every time you prioritize your peace over pleasing others, you risk their approval. But you gain something far greater, self-respect. There's power in not correcting every misinterpretation, in knowing that silence is not weakness, it's self-trust. When you no longer rush to explain, defend, or smooth things over, you reclaim your time, your energy, your truth. Let people think what they want. Your job is not to control their narrative, but to master your own. And when you walk with that kind of self-assurance, misunderstanding no longer feels like a threat. It feels like freedom. The price of authenticity is the willingness to be misunderstood. Every interaction is an investment. Some offer returns, clarity, connection, peace. Others are endless withdrawals with no replenishment. When you stop responding to everything, you stop bleeding life into places that deplete you. This is not selfishness, it is sacred stewardship. Protecting your energy is a spiritual discipline. Boundaries are not barriers to love, they are invitations for respect. You do not owe anyone your constant availability, especially if that access comes at the cost of your well-being. You become selective, not bitter, discerning, not closed. When you treat your attention like sacred ground, only those who walk with care are welcomed. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Send this to someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the right words arrive at the perfect time. Healing is not a grand event, it's quiet subtraction. You begin removing what doesn't nourish you. Less noise, less proving, less urgency to be understood. In that emptiness, something stirs. Peace. Not the peace that comes from everything being perfect, but the peace that comes from no longer needing it to be. You sit in the stillness and realize you don't need to do more to be more. You already are enough. In our culture of hustle and hyperconnectivity, stepping back can feel like a rebellion. But sometimes rebellion is rest. Sometimes healing is not about fixing what's broken, but remembering what was never meant to be carried. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. Anne Lamott. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Solitude is a homecoming. It's the sacred space where your own voice gets louder than the noise of the world. You don't need to disappear to find yourself. You need only to turn inward. Solitude allows the mask to fall. You're no longer performing, pleasing, or adjusting. You are simply being. It is in solitude that you meet the rawest parts of yourself, the ones you buried beneath applause or approval, and you find They aren't frightening at all. They are your strength. In order to understand the world, one has to turn away from it on occasion. Albert Camus. Subscribe for more reflections like this. Quiet wisdom in a loud world. Your energy is not a public resource. It is a sacred offering. Who gets access to it should be a conscious choice, not a default setting. When you begin to protect your presence, you'll notice who respects your time and who simply consumes it. We often think we have to explain why we say no, why we don't respond, why we disappeared. But the truth is, your peace doesn't require a permission slip. Choosing peace sometimes means disappointing others, and that's okay. The more you honor your own boundaries, the more you attract those who naturally honor them too. You stop chasing compatibility. You start recognizing resonance. You decide who gets the privilege of your presence. Explanation is often an attempt to be understood by those committed to misunderstanding you. When you stop explaining, you reclaim power. You stop auditioning for acceptance. This isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. Your evolution is not a group project. Your healing doesn't need to be approved or applauded. Silence isn't a lack of response. It is the most precise response to what no longer deserves your energy. You no longer need to convince anyone of your worth. That's what freedom sounds like. Quiet. Maturity is when you understand that silence is more powerful than proving a point. There is a self that can only be born in silence. When you pull away from what no longer aligns, you create space for the truest parts of you to emerge. Withdrawal is not an ending, it's a rebirth. You return, not smaller, not apologetic, but recentered. You return as someone who has seen themselves clearly and chosen to live in alignment with that vision. This new self doesn't beg, doesn't chase, doesn't explain. It simply exists with integrity, with grace, with grounded power. What you once thought was loss was only pruning. Now you bloom. And then I realized I was never asking for too much. I was just asking the wrong people. You've shifted from seeking validation to embodying self-respect. Your absence is not a punishment. It's a reflection, a statement. I don't abandon myself to be understood. Let your silence echo louder than your words ever could. Let your life become the answer to the questions they never had the courage to ask. Let them miss you. Let them feel your silence. Let them realize your absence. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like the video. It helps the algorithm, but more importantly, it helps spread ideas that matter. Head to the next video for more videos to lock in and level up.